Hi, it's Dorothy Guining with Scrapbooking Quebec. This week I'm playing along with Shannon Allore's mini paper pad class. This is a free 10-week class geared towards using up those 6x6 and 6x8 paper pads. In the description box below, you're going to find a bunch of links, including one to a class Facebook group where you will find tons of inspiration. And there are links to other YouTube and Instagram channels who are playing along, so you just have to look for this thumbnail. This is based on a weekly sketch, this class, and this is the sketch for week 4. That's what I'll be doing here today, and it's from the Hip Kit Club. It was really fun and easy to make, and it took almost no material. This is a pile of scraps. That's what I'm going to be using. It's from my January Scrappy kit, and I don't really have paper pads, so I've been following along with my scraps, and it's perfect for that as well. So here's what I have on my desk. I prepared a frame style foundation in advance with 3 sheets of paper, and I gutted 2 of them. So it's just one full sheet and the others are just pieces. And I also have my photo, of course, as well as the sketch. Now I have a pile of scraps that I selected from my January Scrappy kit, and I want to show you my bag of Vicki Boutin storyteller material because this is how I kind of work with my collections. Basically, I keep them together in a bag as long as I have a bunch of the collection, and I store all the scraps in the back. And then when I'm finished or more or less finished with the collections, I kind of clean it up and get rid of a lot of the scraps. So what I did for this particular layout is I dug into my scraps and I found anything that would match my photo. So I'm showing you some blue paper, some red paper, that black and white, it almost looks like a woven print, and all of that can be found in my photo. I also took apart that or took out some of that yellow as well because there's a bit of yellow in the paper as well. I'm not quite sure what I'm doing with my title yet, so I pulled a bunch of alphas and I'll decide that throughout the process. So I'm showing you some blue and black alphas from Simple Stories, and I also have titles from this Vicki Boutin Storyteller collection. And the only other embellishment I pulled were these enamel dots from Fancy Pants. So what I'm going to do now is the sketch is going to pop up on the screen, and the first thing I'm going to do actually is start beefing up that photo. I'm going to create a layered photo mat just to add a little bit more weight to the photo area. So I'm going to start with this blue piece. You can see my photo is already backed in black cardstock. That came from behind the foundation page. I cut myself another blue one to fit perfectly behind that black mat. But these other 2 pieces, the red and that black and white woven print, I'm just going to layer up some paper behind it. I'm going to adhere the blue behind there because I've already decided on that. But the other 2 I'm going to leave loose for the time being because I'm not quite sure how they're going to fit into the design at this point. I'm getting out my big shot here, and I'm really going to go with the sketch. I'm going to cut out a bunch of hearts. So I'm going to do it in 3 different sizes and in 3 different colors. And I'm putting measurements for what I'm doing on the screen. I will stop. I won't make you watch me cut out all these hearts, but you can see I have a whole bunch of them, and I've inked them up, and I'm using basic gray ink from Stampin' Up, and I also decide to ink those 2 paper mats that I plan to layer up behind my photo. So all of that will be done, and then what I'll start doing actually, I'm going to take some of those red hearts and I'm going to score them down the middle. What I have there is actually an envelope punch board. I don't have a scoreboard here, so I found something that would be easy to score. Anyway, what you see me doing is taking 6 of the hearts in 3 of the sizes, so 2 in each size, and scoring right down the middle of the heart. And you're going to see what I'm going to do with them. I'm just adding a little bit of interest to that heart border that you see on the sketch. So I'm folding those hearts in half, and then when I adhere them to the page, and you'll see that a little bit later on, it's going to have this kind of 3D pop-up effect to them. So now what I'm going to do is place everything on the page how I plan to adhere it a little bit later on. So you can see what I'm doing with those hearts that I folded. And I'm just more or less following the sketch. I don't have nearly as many hearts as what's on the sketch, but whatever, I'm making it work for me and I end up being really happy with the results. So I place everything there and I do have to start adhering at this point. I sped up the film quite a bit because it's just adhering them exactly where I had placed them. But when I go to adhere those pop-up hearts, I do slow down the film so you can see what I'm doing. Also, I'd like to point out that these pop-up hearts that I'm doing, you could easily do that with any shape. You could do it with circles, you could do it with hexagons. I'm doing it with hearts. And another thing about this border here, I'm doing it with hearts, but if you don't have a die cutting machine and you don't want to cut things out by hand, you could also do that kind of border with ephemera and stickers as well. So I'm just adding a little bit more ink to where those hearts are folded in the middle. And now you can see how I'm adhering them. So basically what I'm doing is taking the folded heart and putting adhesive on the back side. And I'm doing it to both of them and I'm positioning each half of the heart so that they meet up and create yet another heart. But you can see they pop up. And I'm going to be strategically placing these pop-up hearts in 3 areas around the page so that it creates a visual triangle around my focal point photo, which happens to be my only photo. So I have the large one there towards the bottom. I have the medium one. You see me adhering that now towards the top. The very same way I adhered the one at the bottom. The third one is going to go over towards the right. It's the tiny heart, but I'm not quite sure how it's going to fit in at this point, so I leave it for the time being. And I do have to work on my journaling and my title. But before doing that, I decide I want to round the corners of my foundation page, just the white part here. So I'm lifting it up and using that really old corner rounder from Creative Memories. I really do need to invest in a new one. You're going to see I have a bit of trouble here, but I think there's adhesive behind there, which was why I was having trouble punching out the corner, but I succeeded. Now what you see me doing is taking that grid paper, which was part of my pile of scraps. It's part of this storyteller collection, and I'm going to create 2 tags with that. And it is going to be eventually where I place my title and my journaling, although at this particular point, I wasn't even sure of that. So I used a tag punch from Stampin' Up! And I cut myself a 2-inch strip, so I just snipped the end. If you don't have a tag punch, you can just cut yourself a strip, clip the corners of the end of the strip, and you'll create yourself a little tag. Just punch a hole in the middle. So I placed them there to the right of the photo, and I also inked them, you can see. But now I'm going into my letters and my titles. But I came across this title that says Happy Soul, and I'm not really good about using those pre-made titles. I usually use alphabets more. So I thought this was a perfect opportunity to use that, because where else was I going to use it? Anyway, like I said, usually I use letters, so I'm really happy to use up this title at this point. So I plan to place it on one of the tags, and I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with that other pop-up heart that I showed you earlier. At this point, I'm thinking it may go on top of the tag, but I do need a spot for my journaling. If I look at the sketch, the journaling is underneath that, but I don't think I want it there. Anyway, you're going to see in the end, it ends up going on that tag above the title. What I'm doing there is creating reinforcers for those tags. So I did it with a hole punch and a 1/2-inch circle punch, and now I'm adhering them to the tags, and I'm also adhering little bows that I made with some twine that comes from Stampin' Up! At this point, I decide I want to put that pop-up heart just above the journaling, and I'm happy with that. But on the sketch, there's this washi tape kind of holding everything down at the top of the photo. So I have a washi tape punch. So I punched out that yellow paper that I had earlier selected and then put that in the top as well. I added some ink, and the only thing I did off camera is I added a staple to that piece of punched out washi tape. I added those enamel dots. Those are from Fancy Pants, all in that blue, which is a different blue. I added it all in the same color. And you're going to see I added from that same enamel dot pack in the title, Happy Soul. In the middle, there's a little tiny heart that's in that same kind of medium blue. And aside from that, I did my journaling. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video. I found this sketch really, really fun, and it took almost no material. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed to Scrapbooking Quebec, I would be absolutely thrilled if you did. And make sure you check out the links below. There is tons of inspiration out there. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye-bye.